Welcome to the Millennial Body Image Project. We're two licensed dietitian nutritionists bringing you conversations that cut through the food noise, debunk wellness trends, and remind you that it's not you. It's the systems stacked against you.
Together, we'll explore the struggles so many of us carry, challenge the fear-mongering that fuels them, and offer evidence-based, compassionate tools to support your body on its own terms.
Because your lived experience matters, and your body is not the problem.
That would be really fun. We're making so many plans before this podcast even starts.
I'm into it.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So we were talking about, before we started recording today, that it has been almost 4 years since you were on the show, which is
wow,
a little bit insane and also feels like a time warp over here. So if people are new to the show, welcome. Or I guess new in the last 4 years, welcome. And if they don't know you, I would love if you could reintroduce yourself.
Oh my God, what a time warp. I was just here yesterday, by the way.
Because every time we talk, it feels like no time has passed.
Which is kind of really lovely. Okay, wait, but you asked me a direct question. Let me direct answer it. Hello, my name is Beatriz, which is Beatriz in Spanish. You can call me Bea Victoria Albina. I am a holistic nurse practitioner. I have a master's degree in public health. I am a master certified somatic life coach. I am the host of the podcast Feminist Wellness, and I am the author of the forthcoming End Emotional Outsourcing: How to Overcome Your Codependent, Perfectionist, and People-Pleasing Habits. It's my new book, and I'm so excited about it.
She's a published author, folks.
Listen, September 30th. It's wild.
So I am one of the privileged people who has gotten to read at least part of the book before it comes out. And as I was reading it, you're so good at framing things in a way that's like, wow, this is a really big issue, but hey, it's not your fault. And we're going to work through it. And of course you're here and it's going to be okay. Right. And also making it be very like action oriented at the same time, which I love. And a big part of what we are going to be talking about this season on the podcast is like the systems that shape us as millennials and how this is a huge part of the internal framework that influences the way that we interact with everything, both with other people, with the systems at play, with food, with our bodies, with body image and everything like that. So I would love for you to go into... I would love for you to go into emotional outsourcing, the entire book, the concept of the entire book. No, I would love for you to go into how did you get to the point where you were like, this is the thing that I need to write about. And actually it would be really interesting to how you got to that phrase, because I know for years you have been talking about all of the components that go into this, but how did we get there?
Right. So let me answer that part first, and then we'll backtrack, yeah? So the phrase came because I really don't like the word codependent. It doesn't make any sense. How does that make sense? Because I was often codependent on people who had no idea what I was up to. So how is it co?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I think part of that, right? English is my second language. I think I do fine. Thank you. But, you know, my mom's like a nerdy linguist. I think about words. Like I think about semantics and words and what words, I mean, they create our lived experience. And so I think it behooves us to be very cautious with and thoughtful about the words we're using, especially when we're choosing them as an identity, which is what so many people are told they have to do if you are a, quote, codependent person. So I take great umbrage with that whole framework, right? That you are codependent, you are a perfectionist, you are a people pleaser, right? It's like saying you are an eating disorder. Yeah. Wait, what? Yeah. No, just hush it, right? You are a person with behaviors that made sense at a point, and you have this profound and endless capacity to shift and grow and change thanks to neuroplasticity. And so you're not nothing. You're the next evolution of you. And when we cling particularly to an identity that is so amorphous, right? What are we telling ourselves? And how are we limiting our human potential? right? And whose systems are we buying into? The whole thing gives me the ickies, and I don't like the ickies. So if I get the ickies, I rewrite it because I'm postmodern that way, and you are too. And let's just change the story so the narrative fits the life we want to live into. Because for me saying, oh yeah, I'm a person who had past tense, codependent, perfectionist, and people-pleasing habits, the word habits changes everything. I also used to bite my beautiful nails. They're stunning now. You know what I mean? But I'm not a nail biter. It's done. It's over. We learned other ways to manage the nervous system. So I wasn't in chronic sympathetic overdrive. And so I didn't need to gnaw at my paws like a trapped animal in a cage. Right? And yeah, I just hear so many humans, particularly those socialized as women, espousing these identities because somewhere along the line they were told there's something wrong with who you are. There's something wrong with your character. You are defective. You are broken, right? You are sick and suffering. You are this effed up animal. This is your identity.
Mhm.
I'm not having it, Dana. I'm not having it. I'm not having it. I'm not interested. You know what I'm saying? And so emotional outsourcing. So what I did in very ADHD style was sit down and create the massivest Venn diagram you've ever seen. Like each circle is trampoline sized. And I wrote out all the things that are that thing. What does a perfectionist do? What does a people pleaser do? Right? Keeping them as the identities, right? What does a codependent do? And in the center was we chronically and habitually look outside of ourselves to source our sense of the three vital human needs: safety, belonging, and worth. Right? We look to everyone and everything outside of ourselves at a great cost to ourselves. And that is emotional outsourcing. What do you think? Not too shabby, huh?
Not too shabby.
Not too shabby.
Ripping from the first page. But I loved how you were bringing up the identities, because I think millennials especially, we love to collect identities. Like we used to collect Pogs and Pokemon cards and Beanie Babies. And if you think about
Tamagotchi.
Yeah, we love millennials love those like BuzzFeed quizzes of like, if this is your favorite celebrity, like what dessert should you eat tonight or something like that. You know, everyone used
We do love it.
We've gone through phases of like, you know, back in the day when everyone was reading the Boy Wizard books, which with She Who Shall Not Be Named, let's say, we all had a Hogwarts house, right? And then it was like, oh, what's your Enneagram? And it was a way for people to understand the way that they are, but also kind of a way to connect with other people. But then when we've gotten into the new evolution of, oh, now we're all perfectionists and we're people pleasers and we are codependent, it's almost like, on the one hand, it was a way of understanding the way that our nervous system has, by default, interacted with the world. But then it does become pathologizing in a way, and we feel like we get stuck in these cycles and these systems. And it's now, like you were saying, I am codependent, even if the co was never a thing, or I am a people pleaser, and nobody else gives a shit. It's like your self-worth is being dependent on, or these identities in a way are paralyzing. So I love when you brought up, I forget if it was like in the intro or the first chapter, I'm like highlighting the shit out of this book is like, you are not codependent. I was like, yes, snaps to that. Thank you.
Yay. This is going to take us on an aside, so I can just say it and we can move on, or I'll come back and we'll talk about it. So I feel like our generation is perhaps, well, Gen X, Zillennial, Millennial.
Yeah.
We really, maybe more so Millennial. Let me say it and then let's see if it holds water. We really, in the US context, are this generation that grew up without a third space, right? The full loss of the commons, because the boomers had that. And then Gen X, I guess, had the mall. But even that was starting to die out by the time we were in middle school and high school.
Yeah.
Right. And everything was going online and we lost the third space. And so we lost a way to have collectivity and community and a commons. I mean, Wendell Berry would be so pissed off. I mean, like we lost the commons. And so we had to cling to these identities. But now we're grown and it really hurts us.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's paralyzing.
And another thought that I was having when we were talking about that is when we get to the early 2000s and really the 2000s to the 2010s, and there were these grasping at straws to create these like online communities and then some communities that went offline as a result of the online community. Speaking of she who must not be named, this is a perfect example of like there was this community around Harry Potter and everything like that, huge community. And then you find out Miss Head Honcho in charge is actually a really terrible person, and it almost feels like you have a loss of that community and a loss of that identity if you don't want to further those issues that they are still actively engaging with and creating, right? So it's almost like we're this like middle, like you were saying, a middle generation that has lost their third space and has attempted to create many different ones, but it's almost like they don't stick. And so it comes back to your concept of emotional outsourcing is like, because we don't have the third space and we don't have this collective that we feel like we're a part of, we're constantly trying to outsource, okay, where can I find that? And we're not able to find it within ourselves.
Right. And so we will attach ourselves to pretty much anything that makes us feel belonging and worth. And what we don't realize is how often that's shaped by systems of oppression. Right? That's shaped by the patriarchy, white settler colonialism, late stage capitalism, all these extractive forces that keep us from standing in our full strength and standing together in the true community we're looking for, right? Because they inherently pit us against each other.
Yeah. And we have never seen that more clearly than we have today in 2025.
Listen. Yeah, it's so true.
So
it's so true.
I want to talk about how I thought you made a really interesting connection. And I know we have talked about this before. By the way, if you all have not listened to our 2 previous episodes, they will be linked in the show notes. I highly recommend. We go really deep into polyvagal theory and the nervous system. But I also want to talk about how you constantly make these connections that I grasp onto because the connection you make is very near and dear to my heart is when we have this severe nervous system dysregulation that happens as a result of emotional outsourcing or the emotional outsourcing that happens as a result of this dysregulation. We start to see issues with like chronic pain, chronic health issues, and then also gut issues, which if people did not have your background, they probably would not have made that connection in the way that you do. So can you talk a little bit about how that happens and how it shows up in the body?
I thought you'd never ask.
You're like, I'm going on Dana's podcast. I know exactly what she's going to ask me.
Oh my, I actually like this morning was like, fixed some of my hairs and was like, okay, so sympathetic activation and the epithelial lining of the small intestine. Let's get into it.
Am I that predictable?
Yes. And thank you. I love it. Because you're the best. No, it makes me so freaking happy.
I am so regulating to your nervous system because you know exactly what's good.
Honestly, yes. So thanks. Yeah, I mean, we can start with the most basic of things, right? Which is that's here. I've been studying human health, psychology, behavior for 20 plus years. Stress hurts your tummy. Stress thins the lining of the tummy, right? The gastric epithelium. It makes your GI tract more permeable, meaning stuff that should not leave and inflame the rest of your body leaves the gut lining and inflames your body. If we sort of boil it back down, God, there's so many directions to go. This is so exciting. I love when my brain is like 1,000 algorithmic charts all at once, right?
You never know which way it's going to go.
You never know, and it's a delight. Our autonomic nervous system, and we're not going to do the whole polyvagal all over again because you're right, it's in the other episode. We've got 3 main states. Oh my God, a lion's coming. Oh my God, the lion is about to eat me, and I'm chill, what? So when you're in I'm chill, what? Which is ventral vagal, which is how I feel now, because I'm like, come on, you guys, I'm talking to Dana. Life is perfect. My digestion is just kicking it. It's like doing, that breakfast, rocking and rolling, absorption, it's doing all the things, metabolism, catabolism. And it's moving appropriately. The second my body smells a lion, what's it going to put the kibosh on? things that don't matter so much. What doesn't matter when a lion's chasing you? Digestion. That's stupid. Why do you want to break down a cheeseburger? You're about to be a cheeseburger. Friggin' run. Right? So in emotional outsourcing, life is a set of lions. Tigers, bears, pick the apex predator of your choice. They're on your tail, right? And in the form of someone doesn't like me, someone doesn't approve of me, someone doesn't think I'm doing a good job, someone doesn't value me, someone thinks I don't belong here, someone thinks I'm not worthy of love and care. Other people's thoughts and feelings about me are lions, tigers, and bears at my heels. So what does your digestion do when it gets that, they don't like me? Stops the digestion and shunts blood to places that are not as useful when you're trying to, I don't know, have a conversation with your partner about chores, right? Your paws are full of blood and go juice and not your digestion, not your vitalness. Yeah? So the more stressed we are, the less things like digestion operate. So to your immune system, right? So to your cognitive function, you don't think so goodly when you're supposed to be running from a lion. And so, let me go back to your first question is how did I get to here? I was a primary care provider, moved into functional medicine, not the snake oil kind. The science, DNA testing, I want a PCR, I want to use logic and look at cascades, science-based.
If you're here, people should know that we've already vetted you for that.
Fair.
And not only have you been here once, but 3 times.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. But like these days, like these banana boat maha days, I feel like I have to be like functional medicine, but not, I'm not telling people to put coffee in their butt. Coffee goes in one hole.
Not the
there
other
is
one.
one in hole for coffee. That's it, folks.
We did a whole episode on that last season.
Did you? I can't believe I missed it. One hole, folks. Oh, God. Anyway, all right. So, so then I did functional medicine gastroenterology, which was born of my own GI issues. I had lifelong GI issues, which are still unraveling. I just figured out I have some histamine stuff.
Love.
What makes histamine stuff worse? Oh, stress.
Stress.
Sure, it's what you're eating, but at the end of the day, it's stress. What makes sulfur stuff worse? Sure, it's what you're eating, but at the end of the day, stress. Give me a diagnosis and just try to scout how stress is not at the root of it, right? Even like I had a legit parasite, not a drink walnut under the full moon. Like I had a DNA PCR, a lab at Harvard University told me you have a parasite. God, the amount of disclaimering you got to do in this day and age.
I know.
Listen, so I had blastocystis hominis. Sure. Was he causing problems? Yeah, he's a real jerk. That guy, what was at the core of it? Stress. And amongst other factors, thinking you're not worthy, thinking you don't matter, right? Thinking that everyone else is so much more important to you, that it's your job to manage their feelings. How's that not going to keep you stressed, my love, right? And so I'm in clinic. I had a private practice in New York. It was going great. I had a 6-month wait list. I was loving the work. And my patients would get better and remit. Get better and remit. Crap. Get better and remit. And I have enough ADHD to see the pattern very clearly. Sorry to brag so much. I've mentioned it twice, my neuromagicalness. I usually don't brag so soon, but it's our 3rd time. So
it's okay. Can relate. So
okay, great. Totally. I know you can. Wait. So I started to see the pattern, right? Correlating symptomology and stress pictures. And I started asking people, you were pooping like a champ. And then you come back to me and you haven't pooped in 3 days, or all you can do is poop for 3 days. What happened? And they'd go, oh, well, I think maybe I ate some, and I don't care what you ate. What happened to your heart? What happened to your self-story? Did you talk to your mother? Did you talk to my mother? Like, what happened? And time and again, we would pattern it out, and there would be some blow to self-esteem, some worry that would be this causative factor. Amongst other factors, but it was a thing to pinpoint, some limbic system, some fear, some worry. that time and again was hurting the poops. And you know I can't have that.
You know what is like nice and bittersweet about that? Because I see this also frequently is we'll go through a whole thing and then people are like, okay, things are flaring up again. What's happening? And I always say, if you are having symptoms, no matter what you are eating and no matter what we've been working on, let me tell you, I'm sorry to say it's not the food, because the food is a way more controllable factor. And not to say that that's easy. It is not,
No,
right?
sure.
But then the food is not the issue, right? And I've said this on many podcasts before, is if food is not the origin of the problem, meaning it's not celiac disease and it's not a food allergy,
right,
then food cannot be the one and only solution. And most of the time, it's only a very small part of the solution, because if your nervous system is on fire, if you continue to get activated, then yes, your gut is going to be on fire, and therefore you're going to be having issues with food.
Correct.
But removing all of these foods that you think are, quote, inflammatory are not going to fix why we got here in the first place. It may give you some short-term relief of like, oh, now I'm not pooping my pants 12 times a day.
Right.
Which, don't get me wrong, is fantastic.
Listen, that's
we don't
lovely.
Want that to be happening.
Yeah.
We don't want that to be happening.
But
it's not actually going to get you where you really want to go, because we're talk about functional medicine. We're not actually getting to the root of the issue.
Right.
But if we're looking at things in a, let's say, current functional medicine lens, the food, the thousands of dollars worth of supplements, the thousands of dollars worth of gut testing and hair testing and Dutch testing and all the things.
Right.
Unfortunately, they're only going to show you how, like, in general, inflamed or out of whack that you are, but it's not actually telling us why we got there. And I see this a lot with people who come to me from functional medicine practitioners, and they're thousands of dollars down the drain.
Yep.
Because they have been doing what I call teaching to the test. And so we're trying to fix the things that are coming up on the test, as opposed to trying to figure out, okay, well, why are these things happening in the first place? And listen, some of it is scope of practice, right? There's only so deep that all of us can go, because our knowledge base is relatively limited in comparison to all of the knowledge that's out there. And so we're all just trying to work with the tools that we have and what we've been given. But we're really not getting to this part of it.
Right. We're really not, which is what led me to leave clinical medicine and to train as a coach and to start doing this work. And the long-lasting improvements that I see in people's lives are mind-blowing. It's absolutely mind-blowing. I mean, it's that same effect. You know how people are like, so much of the Maha stuff is that, like, food is better in Europe because you can eat it there and you can't eat it in Cleveland. But it's actually not the food, it's you, right? It's the sobremesa, right? It's like, the term sobremesa doesn't have a translation. It's the over the table. It's that you spend 3 hours in a plaza eating dinner, slowly, but talk about the third space, surrounded by people, in conversation, in community, not this American, like, sit down, order, get your food, pay, go, run. Right, so we blame
and pull
the
yourself
food.
Up by your bootstraps.
Well, also while you're at it, right? The rugged individualism. Yeah, I mean, that's the other part of the book is really helping us to zoom out and to see, like, yeah, there's problems with food systems. Yeah, there's problems with the culture of, like I was just saying, that, like, eat and run.
Mm-hmm.
But these kinds of individualized pathologizing diagnoses separate us from what we need is collectivity, what we need is community. So we were not hurt in a silo. We were hurt relationally. Codependent, perfectionist, and people-pleasing habits, those are relational injuries. And our nervous systems need one another to be able to heal, right? It's like one of the, my partner's training to be a therapist, and one of the things they were learning last week in eating disorder treatment is to have lunch with your patients. Right? Because we can eat communally and heal issues around eating. It's part and parcel. We need to normalize connection once again, right? And make connecting the central part of our lives. And so when you say, I am a codependent, there's something wrong with me, you take yourself out of the collective and keep yourself spinning in me, me, me. It also can become sort of, I don't want to say selfish, but it can lead to a kind of self-obsession, which I think the food stuff can too, right? The number of emails I've gotten that are like, I'm panicked, I had one bite of gluten, I'm not celiac. It creates this inward self-obsession when what we need is to volunteer at the food kitchen.
Right. And the inward self-obsession and the pathologizing kind of go hand in hand, right?
Yeah.
Because we hear about all of this craziness of, oh, I've given you the tools, therefore you have the means to fix it, but it has to be on you. And we've heard about
Right.
this so much, not just from the MAHA functional medicine,
Right.
we've gone very far space, but also with the rise of Ozempic and American rugged individualism. It's like
Sure.
all of this kind of comes together, and it feels like, especially for people who have gone through the Western medical system and feel like they have been abandoned because it's so segmented, again,
Yes.
getting away from this collective, you don't have anyone to kind of look at the whole picture and
Yeah.
help you put those pieces together.
Yeah.
I have been through this myself. Like, we've all been through
Right.
this, right? And it's
Yes.
not the fault of the individual practitioners. It's the way that the system is set up.
Correct.
But then when it feels like it's all on me, it also then starts to feel like it's your fault. And therefore, people
Right.
become obsessed with these individualized methods of, I have to pull myself up by my bootstraps. I have to seek out ways that I can do this myself because I have felt abandoned by the collective in a way when really the collective doesn't even really exist.
Right. And I've been told by the only systems we have, you're the problem, 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 you're the problem.
Yeah.
Right.
Which, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, when we look at the systems that are out there to even begin to address this, they come from like the 20s to the 40s. And our whole conceptualization of codependency, as we currently have it, comes from the war on drugs. Right? It's not a modern psychology-based understanding. It's really I mean, it's the same way of like talking about alcoholics and drug abusers and these pathologizing. Y'all just listening to the podcast, I put that in air quotes. I don't use that kind of person last language because what gives, right? Like, what are we doing? Right?
And what's really interesting about this too is when we have this, I must do this myself, and we also have these pathologies that are person last,
Yes.
it makes you more and more disconnected from your own body, which makes it really hard to want to be a part of any collective space.
Yep.
Right. And so I love how you put in the book, once you were learning to uncover all of this stuff and then also work to start healing it in yourself, you said, I learned to listen to my body for the first time in years. And by that, not just to manage stress or stop being sad.
Yep.
Could you talk about that a little bit more? I
with
love
endless joy, though. Right. So this is what, okay, so it's trending to put hashtag somatics on everything. And I've been, right, I started studying somatic movement in the 90s at Oberlin. Like, it is a wildly different animal. So somatics, soma means body in Greek. Somatics is any modality that studies the body and that brings us back into coherence with the body, right? Back into true embodiment. Coherence meaning a murmuration of birds. They're not on walkie-talkies. They're just energetically moving together. And so it brings us into that sort of movement, presence, and awareness with our own body so that we can actually hear our body. We can actually feel our body and not use it the way capitalism says we should extractively use things, right? I need to reduce stress so I can hit that deadline so I can make the stockholders more money. Listen, I know mama's got to eat. Yeah, meet your deadline. But we need to somatically connect with our bodies because we are our bodies, right? Capitalism has led us to think we are separate from. But in my framework and in my feminist way of thinking, we cannot fully overcome codependent, perfectionist, and people-pleasing habits until we are back in our autonomy, our authenticity, our intentionality. And all of that comes from the soma, comes from the body, comes from and returns to, right? We're in this circular movement with self. Because self, as we've been taught to conceptualize it, is conceptual in the mind, right? It's cognitive, right? I think self. But how many of us are feeling self? Right? When I ask my clients, I run a 6-month program called Anchored, and so much of the first month is learning how to feel our feelings in our body, right? And so I'll say, what does that sadness feel like? I don't know. It feels like really bad. Okay. I hear you. I hear you. I love you. You're doing great. We need to feel it in the animal, because when we can feel it in the animal, we can be present to it and it can teach us. Right. And then what happens is we're not driven by unmanaged felt experience. Right. So when we experience stress, distress, and trauma, the body moves into a tension pattern led by those experiences. And that will, boom, come out until we are able to hold space for it to process through the body. So, yeah, someone says some little thing and you snap at them, right? That's that sympathetic activation, that stress held in the animal that you are unconscious to because you're living from the neck up. And so, yeah, we need to get in touch with our bodies, not to manage them and not to use them as tools, but because they are us. And when we are in our bodies, we remember that we are nature and we are respectful of the earth. We are kind to our fellow beings. We are kind to animals, right? Like it ripples out into everything we do when we're present in our bodies.
God, we have gotten so far from that as a collective species.
Yeah.
Well, especially in this country. I can't speak for other countries.
Right. Yeah, for sure. For sure. And I think it's so much of the pain and struggle that's going on is that lack of connection from our animal nature, from our bodies, from our truth.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm. And one thing that I want to go back to is with all of the things we've been talking about so far today and with emotional outsourcing, I love that you make a really big point throughout the book to be like, of course we're here.
Yes.
Because unlike all of the pathologizing that we've been talking about this isn't something that you did wrong. Oh my God, you ate gluten, therefore you're an emotional outsourcer. No, this isn't something you did wrong. This isn't something to feel like a failure about. I love how the way that you structure things and the way that you phrase things is, this is something that is, ironically, a collective experience because of what we have all been subject to our entire lives, especially in Western culture and especially in the US, and especially people who have been socialized as women, right? So I love that you really give that, what we call in the podcast, like a permission slip of like, of course you're here. This isn't something that you did or some fault of yours.
Right.
This is more of an understanding of how did we get here? And then what are ways that you can start to understand instead of just like, here's your to-do list of how to get out of this and fix your whole life.
Right.
It's how did we get here and understanding. And then what are the ways that you can start to come back to yourself so you can become more embodied and then realize how these patterns have been serving you in a way because it is a nervous system response.
Oh, yeah.
But not serving you in other ways. But again, that is not a fault of yours. It's more of a, okay, how can we come with understanding, with curiosity, and start to move forward? And how that can change your life instead of, here's how to change your life in A to Z in a wellness productivity checklist.
Exactly. Where you have no agency, no intentionality. Once again, you're just doing what you're told, right? You're just people pleasing. You're just following the perfectionist guide. And it's not self-actuated. And so if it's not self-actuated, it doesn't actually create change within. And if we're living in that pejorative, pathologizing, you're an F up model, then our nervous systems are in sympathetic activation or dorsal shutdown, right? In the I'm about to be lunch. When we are there, we cannot actually take responsibility in a fully emotionally adult way. We might say like, oh, I'm so sorry, but it's not actually registering within us in a way that leads to changed behavior. right? And so that's why those old models just don't work longitudinally, right?
Yeah.
Until we're really able to step into greater embodiment and give ourselves the frickin' grace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Every time we talk, I'm pretty sure I say this, but I feel like we could talk about this forever.
1,000 hours.
We have truly only skimmed the surface of this stuff. In a way, I feel like we have only talked about the introduction of your book. Like, not even the rest.
Listen, I'll come back. I will be a monthly visitor. You just say the word. I'll put you repeating on my calendar. I
would
available.
love that.
What am I doing? I'm not busy. I know I finished writing the book, which was about like 100 pages over my limit when I turned it in. Oops.
Amazing.
And was like, I've barely skimmed the surface.
Yeah.
Because there's so much depth to all of this, so much complexity. And I'm excited for your readers to listen to the book, read the book, enjoy the book, and then I'll write part 2.
Yeah. And honestly, I feel like we could easily do a part 2 because we didn't even really get into how this affects and shows up in body image and in our relationship with self and in the relationship with food and then how that comes in. And Okay,
and then if you want to talk,
it's a date.
Okay, great. And we can talk about fascism and the rise of the cult of thinness because I'm into that.
Yeah. Okay, part 2 and 3. Sounds good.
Okay, great. Okay.
Before you leave, please tell people where they can find you. I mean, you've said it a couple times, but tell people where they can find you and then obviously where you can find the book and mention when it comes out and we'll go from there.
Okay, great. So the book comes out on September 30th. Oh my God, so exciting.
So
pre-orders are the thing. Pre-orders help authors so much. It's actually not about me making money because authors don't make money anymore. It's about getting the book into people's hands. So if you want it to end up in libraries, pre-order. Like people need to understand that link, right? So September 30th, there's all the links to buy it are on my website, Beatriz, Beatriz, Albina, ALB as in bunnies, INA.com/book. You can get all the little links there from Amazon to Bookshop. So please pre-order, buy it for your friends. It makes an excellent passive-aggressive holiday present.
You know what's so funny is I was just going to say we definitely need to do an episode around the holidays because how great of a gift would this be?
Oh my
and
God,
also like
so good.
Here's how to do a little bit of reconnaissance self-care as you're being exposed to all of your triggers maybe.
I love it. I'm available. Let's do it.
That's great. Thank you so much for coming on again.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of the Millennial Body Image Project. If you want more content like this, follow us on Instagram at Millennial Body Image Project, or find all of our previous episodes on our website, millennialbodyimageproject.com.